So as you may have just heard that I've just been incompetent and lost my notes. I might get them, but I've got some in my brain here. So we've got Kristen, Izzy and Mippy here, and who have been apparently quite naughty over the last year, is that correct?
By whose definition of naughty?
By the other people's definition of naughty. Okay. So I'll just, my take is I'm not sure what the best tactics and strategies are. And sometimes I'm totally on board with doing absolutely these kind of things. And sometimes I think maybe I'm not on board with that and I'm not sure. So I'm going to pretend today is one of the days when I'm not on board with it and ask the questions. So if I miss anything out, I'm going to be prompted by you if there's anything else I forget to ask. So, do you want to just introduce yourselves and the kind of things you've been involved in recently?
Sure.
Have a microphone.
Okay. Hello everyone, thank you for being here. I just walked in the door, I'm a bit puffed. But it's good to see people still attending the forum and wanting to learn different ways to be more effective, as we all do as well. We really want to get feedback from what we talk about today. But I'm Kristen, I'm from Vegan Rising. We only launched in April this year, but before that I have just, like a lot of us, just worked with lots of groups and still continue to, and I want to focus more on direct action and encouraging others to do that too. So I'll be talking about that tomorrow at 10 a.m. and I'd love you all to come along to talk about how to create powerful protests. Thanks.
Hello, I'm a travelling activist. I go across the boards and I try to learn as much as I possibly can, as well as doing many different styles of activism, and I've had my fingers in many, many different pies and try my hardest to create a better future for everybody, humans and non-humans alike. Non-humans and non-human animals, should I say. Got that wrong.
Hello, I'm Izzy Vera, I'm from Sydney. I was the co-founder and lead organiser of Legion VX City, which is a direct action group there. At the moment I'm focusing more on rescue work and grassroots activism with marginalised groups in the community. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here today and for opening up your minds to effective activism and learning more about ways you can get active. Back to you, Roy.
Okay. In this professional sense that I'm doing this, I think I have just found my notes.
Okay, so I'm asked these questions to the group and maybe respond in turn. And I'm going to start by, I want to start with the effect on individual activists. And I'm going to illustrate this with a story. Because many years ago, I knew an activist. I'm going to put this down because we don't need that there. I knew a UK activist that was quite full on, and he tells a story of his work in the 1970s. In the 1970s in the UK, there were some groups called the Animal Liberation Leagues. Anyone heard of those? Okay, the Animal Liberation Leagues, and they did not work ballot farmers, but they used to break into animal testing laboratories. They'd go in the middle of a Saturday afternoon with large numbers of people, completely, effectively an open rescue kind of scenario, with just the sheer weight of people going in. And they were doing this for a couple of years. This would, I would say, be the late 1970s, early 1980s. And they almost never, well, essentially the story as I've been told it, was that they never got arrested. And so they've been doing this for a couple of years, and then in some, the anecdote I was told by someone that was involved was that they got 1,000 people on one afternoon to break into an animal testing laboratory. This is in the late 1970s in the UK. And this was going on for some time. And they'd go around in their transit vans and coordinate, and where are we going next week? Let's rescue some animals. And they My friend tells the story of one day they stopped at a motorway service station to fuel the van. And they got out and there was a guy hitchhiking. They said, "Oh, you want a lift?" And he said, "Yeah, where are you going?" "Oh, we're going to break into an animal testing laboratory." And he basically says, "Can I come?" And they say, "Sure. Won't you get arrested?" And they said, "No, we've been doing this for ages." And that weekend was the weekend that it would appear had come down from the top of the UK government. It would seem that the police were now going to start enforcing the law with full force. And that guy got arrested along with many, apparently hundreds of other people, for the first time that weekend. And apparently, I believe, although I wasn't there, ended up going to court and I believe served some time. How do you know this isn't going to happen?
You don't, that's the thing. So, as an organiser and attendee activist, it's so important to make sure that you never promise anyone anything legally. It's essential. You can't give false information. The reality is, we never know how the police are going to respond. I was, in my head, thought, for example, at Flinders Street shut down on April 8th, that we would be arrested. I knew some of us were, and those people were prepared for that, and everyone knew. I'm going to talk about this in more detail tomorrow, but I thought when we were arrested, the people that had agreed to be arrested and acknowledged that we didn't know what that would result in, and everyone was made aware of that, and it had to be, and that was really, it would have been irresponsible of me to make them think otherwise. But I, in my own head, thought we won't even go to the station, because I've been arrested before and never been taken to the station. They just arrest you on the spot, let you go. So I was even thrown that day. So you can never know what they're going to do, and you should never, ever tell anyone that you know what they're going to do, because the reality is you don't. If you are putting people in a role that is at risk of arrest, they need to know that. You need to be very clear, and you need to make it clear to them that you will give them all the support you can moving forward if they are arrested legally. You do everything you can. You can't guarantee legal support if you don't have the money, but you can tell them you'll try to help, and that's your responsibility as an organiser, I believe, as well. And then I think for those people who are attending that you say are non-arrest roles, you need to be clear. You need to make sure they are non-arrest roles. And I think it's really important that you also reassure people when you're giving them very limited information about what the action is actually, what's occurring, and that's unfortunately required in this movement, because the police do want to stop us from taking these actions. That those people who are in non-arrestable role, those people who are unsure, they know that they can leave at any time. So your action needs to make sure they all feel safe, and your briefing needs to be very clear before you go to that action, that people do, if at any point they won't be able to leave, they need to know that, and then they can make that decision on the day. Look, I'm not comfortable, I don't want to take part, and we need to respect that.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said. I feel like you've got to work with the right people as well, because I've been to court and faced a year jail sentence. There's a 25 grand fine for never even being arrested. And I think sometimes working with specific individuals, you need to make sure your trust is there, and communication is very clear whether you're going to be arrestable or non-arrestable. And especially when working with people, you really, like, big mass actions is harder, but smaller actions with smaller people, there needs to be quite an element of a lot of trust. And the only reason I ended up going to court was because one person handed my name into a paper, and I was like, God damn it. And at the time I didn't even have permanent residency. I was like, oh shit, I'm going to shoot straight over, we're going to stay in Australia. So, yeah, I think you don't really pick up hitchhikers nowadays to try and break into lives, but you know, anything works nowadays. I definitely think that knowing and trusting people and working with them and going off your own intuition and your own first initiative thoughts about an individual, not what somebody else is telling you. Go with your instincts, and obviously you're still going to get undercovers or shit stirrers or whatever still passing through, but like just go off your gut instincts. I think that's the best thing a person can do, and develop a trust, especially when working in smaller groups. But larger groups, there is that element of trust, and I think it's always important to have someone talk about the legal aspects of, you know, if this gets arrested, you can get this, and I feel like we don't have too much of that in the animal rights movement. Sadly, I think we should be taking more leaves out of the book of, some pages out of the book of the environmental movement, where their legal structures are amazing. They I learned most of my legal stuff from doing environmental activism and standing up for Aboriginal land, where I spent 6 months trying to protect sacred lands and songlines and stuff. So yeah, and they've got that covered, and we really need to bring that more into this movement, I feel.
Izzy?
Yeah, I'll reiterate what both Mippy and Kristen have said. You can never ever guarantee what the police or legal response will be at an action. And I think to just, so I'm not repeating what they're saying, but the people who are in those roles that can lead to arrest need to understand as well, as much as possible, what that actually means if you are arrested. So from my personal circumstances, I've been in court now for more than a year for an open rescue action that we did in New South Wales last year. And that has been a huge undertaking for the group of us that are there. We've been really lucky to have a lot of community support and a lot of legal support as well. But even just again from personal circumstances, it did mean that I could no longer work with youth in custody whilst I'm in court. So that was a repercussion I was kind of prepared for. But I can't make that decision for other people. So I think if you're going to get involved in actions like that, look at your personal circumstances and what it actually means if you are arrested, if you are going to have to go through court. How's it going to affect, you know, your job or your family? We had people looking at, you know, a whole different range of risks that I'm not really at liberty to say. But and I think perhaps one of my failures in that particular action was just not considering that for them as well. Yeah, but it's definitely, yeah, you can never actually guarantee what's going to happen. Yeah, so just be prepared for that.
Can I also add, 9 out of 10 times it's not as bad. I think a lot of paperwork regarding activism when it comes to going through court always is, I personally feel like it's a scare tactic. And a lot of people, you know, I've been through court, I've had a lot of friends go through court, and what's written on paper is nowhere near as bad as what they make out. And I think that's also, I feel like that needs to come across. I don't want everyone, people think, oh my God, I'm going to go to jail, or I'm going to go to this, because it is actually really hard to go to jail.
Yeah. Can I just reiterate something as well? That I don't regret that we've been in court for that period of time, because I do think we need to challenge that trespass law. Yeah. And that was something that we all decided to do as well when we didn't take plea deals. But again, that was an informed choice that the group of us made to do. And it may still go to appeal once the conviction has been handed down. And again, we all have to consider our personal circumstances for that. But it's something that we're willing to push for.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I know we've probably got lots of questions.
Go ahead.
But I just forgot, I actually have gone to the station twice before this one. I forgot all about it, so I just wanted to make that sure that was clear, so no one found out the letter and thought I was lying. So it does happen, and maybe I, for whatever reason, didn't expect it to happen that day. But I agree 100%. That process, and I don't want to give anyone false ideas either, making very clear that was just these circumstances but 3 times. They're very different circumstances really, but you let go after not very long on bail. It is an awful experience. You do not want to, it's a bit of a reality check being in jail cell, it really is. It's awful. But there is 0 regrets as well. And I found on the times where I did go to court that the magistrates tend to be, again, not wanting to give false hope, but they're on your side generally, or they see that what you're doing is from the goodness of your heart. I think the magistrates are way more on our side than the police force, and really they're the only ones in the legal system and the politicians and everything that are really. They deal with some crazy stuff, so when they see us trying to do good in the world, they do mostly recognise that unless you get a nasty one.
Saskia, if you could just type in 1111, I'll be delightful. Thanks. So I hope you don't mind just riffing on these, because we've impinged on a couple of the topics, and it's very interesting this. I've got some, I do have my prepared questions with me, of course, but I'd just like to respond to what you said, Izzy, about you didn't think it was a waste of time going through the courts for a year.
But it's still going.
It's still going.
It's still
It's
going.
been a year,
Yeah.
and you're still going through the courts
Yeah.
because you want to, I believe, I'm going to interpret that your activism now involves challenging that law.
Yeah. Challenging the trespass.
Challenging the trespass law.
Yeah.
So now
Under the
that,
grounds of necessity.
okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just ask a question about that, and then let you respond. You effectively become a human rights activist because of the situation you're being in, because the human right is there, the access to the land. So you basically transition from if this I don't know the case, but if it was an animal rights issue that you got arrested for and you're now challenging it because you want to change that law, you're becoming a human rights activist. So I'm just going to ask, do we have that luxury with the number of animals being killed for you to be taking time out from animal rights to be now basically being a anti-trespass law activist?
Well, it hasn't prevented my activism though. And even though, for example, I no longer do my work in with youth in a custodial environment,
Okay.
I still work with youth in the community. So I'm still able to advocate in that way. But again, the priority for me in particular with this, actually it was an open rescue for hens that were found in an egg farm that were basically being starved to death.
Yeah.
And after we tried to negotiate with the RSPCA, I can't talk too much obviously because it's still an open case, we decided to attempt a rescue. And they've arrested us for trespass, amongst other things, but we're challenging that law, saying it was necessary, that what was happening to those animals, to those hens inside that shed, negates the fact that we trespassed. So, and funnily enough, they're actually using other laws that involve, people for that argument of necessity. So it's kind of crossed over. I don't know if I've really answered your question there.
You've answered it to some extent.
Okay.
If other people want to comment, because it's a situation that has arisen where certainly in the UK people have ended up spending a lot of time challenging unjust laws because of the situation they've ended up in doing animal rights stuff. Now, I see that's commendable, but then if they're doing that, they're not doing animal rights stuff. Any comments, any on that? Do we have that luxury with the slaughterhouse, with all the animals dying? Do we have the luxury of effectively being human rights activists on trespass laws, etc.?
I think when you're challenging the law based on trespass to rescue dying individuals who are being starved to death, for example, or to go into a slaughterhouse and rescue, bobby calves, whatever the situation might be, if you're challenging that law of trespass, you're ultimately doing it for the animals. I don't think it's actually I don't think you're doing it for human rights. It's changing a law and the impact on the human, but the ultimate impact is on those animals. So I do see this as activism still, personally.
I just think as an activist, we're also meant to be broken, regardless of what we want in. That's how I feel.
No comment. Okay. So what I'm going to ask about now is, I'm going to go back to the original case actually. I want to talk about naivety. Right. So, and there's a little thing. Right. I'm formulating my question. Here we go. Direct action is glamorous. Yes? Like, fact. Where is everyone during this talk that want to hear about this? Yes, it is. It's glamorous. Or at least the image of it's glamorous. So the reality of a jail cell isn't very glamorous at all, I'm sure. And as a result, people might get somewhat carried away about wanting to get involved with this, because people do tend to value inordinately those that get involved in direct action. I've seen it myself at meetings. Everyone wants to hear and talk about the people that have done the full-on stuff. Oh, tell us about breaking into the laboratory. And myself, as a doughy-eyed animal rights teenager, I was in awe of the people doing direct action. My teenage phase lasted for about 30 years. And I was like, wow, tell me about that stuff. And that inevitably can encourage people to do it, out of proportion to the potential number of animals saved. There's a risk, therefore, that people will get involved in actions that are inefficient because of the potential glamour. Comment.
I wouldn't call it glamour, but I know what you mean. Like the attention does go a lot to that. So much to say on that, but ultimately, everything I do, every choice I make, every thought pattern I have every day, is this what the animals want me to be doing? And if I was being brutalised and stabbed in the throat, would I want the people I was relying on to stand on a street corner with a sign, or would I want them to do more? And I'm not saying standing on a street corner with a sign isn't effective. It is. I know it is, and I've done a lot of it, and I'll continue to do it. But it's not enough. We need to be doing everything. We need to be in politics. We need to be on the street corners with signs. We need to be leafleting. We need to have our TVs, and we need to be challenging society with direct action. We need to be doing all of it. And the reality is a lot of people aren't going to be doing direct action. So I'm stepping up and I'm doing it, and it's where I feel like I need to be. And it's when I ask myself that question, what would the animals want me to be doing with my personal circumstances, what I'm mentally and physically capable of at this time in my life? That's where I'm at. It won't be like that forever, it's just where I'm at now, and that's the answer I get when I ask myself that. And it doesn't mean that the other stuff isn't effective. It just needs to have it. We need to be showing the world that this is messed up, and we are willing to wear their urgency. I need to wear their urgency in my heart and on my face in the actions I take, because they deserve that, and their situation is as urgent as if it was a human child being beaten and abused and all that. The urgency would be on so many humans. I'm adopting that the same for the animals. It's no different. Their suffering is equal, and we need to behave as though the same thing is happening to children or elderly as what is happening to them.
Cool.
I
Interesting. Izzy, make sure I pass the microphone to you first sometimes as well. Sorry, it's just a joke.
I completely second that. Like every action I know I've taken for animals has been because I've got the animals on my mind, not ever to be glamorous. But I'm also very, very aware as humans, we don't all fit into one box. And as humans and as people who care about animals and who can fight for animals, there is a box that each and every single one of us can tick. And if there's a box you can tick, if there's a multiple boxes you can tick them. Because there are so many vegans who are not active. And if there's something you can do it, regardless of what it is. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about you, because tell you what, you can't please every single vegan, you can't please everybody. As soon as you start trying to please everybody, you're never going to get anything done. As long as you're not hurting anyone, then just go tenfold. Just go hard and tick as many boxes, and if you can paint them on the way past, go. That's how I feel.
I'm just trying to consider how to answer your question, because I wouldn't exactly call some of the stuff I've done glamorous either.
Maybe glamorous isn't the word, but okay, for shallow people, I count myself included in that category. It seems exciting, and I want some of that.
Right.
But that's ego. That's not because there's more animals saved. It's
That's kind of what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
Like, are you talking about ego?
Yeah.
You know, and people doing activism
And we've all got one.
for egotistical reasons. And I think that, look, I know this is probably a dirty word to say, but there is heroism and saviorism in the community. And I think people doing activism for the sake of being seen doing activism is the danger, rather than doing activism for the sake of the animals, like what the two of you have just said. So, and I think an important part of that, as some of the speakers have mentioned in some of the workshops today, like the Go Vegan World one this morning, is to keep the animals at the centre of their own story. So I think as long as we're doing that, the message is quite clear about what we're doing, you know, rather than it just being about, look at me. Like I remember reading some of your notes, you're like, look at me, I'm at the front of a march or whatever.
Yeah.
No, it's not about you being at the front of the march, it's about the message that you're sending with that march.
It can be. It can be.
But I don't deny that, I'm
Yeah.
just saying that we need to be aware of that as a community and really look at why you're doing actions. You're not doing them for yourself, you're doing them to get the message out there for the, for the animals. So.
But I also think that, you know, there's people in who people really look up to for health, fitness. Hey, look at my abs, blah blah blah. But you know what? If that turns somebody vegan because they want to look like that, I don't care if it's an ego thing for them. Just go vegan. If it's a health reason, just go vegan. If you want to stroke your ego because you've got 20 abs on the stomach and on your back and God knows where else, I don't care. Like, we're humans, we don't fit into one box, tick all the boxes. And if someone goes vegan because they want to look nice, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Why do I have so much? I enjoy my involvement in this event. I like on the Saturday morning standing there and doing my speech. I find it fun, and so if there's something you get fun from, and it also helps animals, great. There's been times, particularly in the early days of my activism, I really like being on the megaphone at the front. And it's very interesting. Towards my end of my days, I don't know if it's too many times at Warrnambool, I started getting really fed up with it. I don't want to do it anymore. For me, when I was, sorry, it's not about me, but it kind of is, because I was the ego thing. You can want to be at the front, and sometimes it's just your pure enthusiasm for the subject. I want to be involved in that. And this leads on to my next question. One, there's a danger of that. How do you make sure your volunteers are there for the right reason? Or tell me about what, if you're organising an action, what do you say? Like, you can't make them aware of the full consequences. What's all your approaches to checking your volunteer team? What do you think about, not just consequences for them, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to ask Izzy first, because I keep putting it in front of you. Like, for your volunteers, how do you check? And I'm going to give an example, actually, of something that once happened to me. I once turned up in London, having just flown in from Australia, and contacted a friend and said, any demos going on today? I'm a bit jet lagged, but I want to do some animal rights. And I turned up, and I was in the UK for 2 weeks, and I nearly got arrested. And a full-on arrest, very, very close. I was giving out leaflets outside an embassy for a group, and the group was, there's a country that raises monkeys for animal testing laboratories, and I was giving out leaflets. This country breeds monkeys for animal testing laboratories, and I was giving out leaflets, and all of the rest of the group ran in the embassy. In the UK, I believe embassy staff are allowed to shoot people who come in. How do you make sure, what do you say to volunteers? Because you can end up in a very dangerous situation as a volunteer if you don't know what kind of people are in the group. I'll pass it to Izzy.
I think, well, as an organiser, whenever we run an event, we have a very clear goal of what the event is and what our message is going to be with the event and what result we kind of would like from the event. So I think it's a matter of keeping the communication there with the people that are going to come to your event. So having a briefing as well at the beginning and making sure everybody understands what their role is, you know, like you said, you know, what possible consequences can be, and just making sure that there's a clear message and that everybody understands what that is for that particular event. One of the most successful shutdowns that I did with another organisation, the preparation for that was just top notch. Everybody understood what they were doing, what we were doing there, what our ultimate goal was with that shutdown, and we reached that. And it was, and I take my hat off to the organisers of that particular event, because that was something that really taught me how to organise those kind of events as well. And yeah, just making sure everybody is on the same page with what's happening.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree. And after doing activism for 10 years, I've definitely been in some really, really funny situations, should we say, where I've had, like, I used to go to the animal rights gatherings in England. Now, Roy, you've probably been to some of these animal rights gatherings, and I was involved in probably the last biggest one before they had one last year.
Right.
And that stopped it for a long time, and the police came down very hard on a lot of people. It's always definitely expect the unexpected. And we did an action, and I didn't know where this action was going to be, and I just went full force. Yeah, I'm going to follow these people. It was with Stop Huntington Life Science Shack campaign. If anyone knows who they are, and yeah, it was very, very full on, to the point where we were having an animal rights meeting. I completely capped my pants and wanted to get out of there, because the places started to be lined up with police in riot gear looking for.
I saw video footage of it.
Oh, I'd love to see that. Can you get on that? Sorry. And to my shock, I had like riot police surround the whole building that I was in, and I got out before the police were there, and I took all my piercings out. I had way more piercings in my face at the time. I hid my hair, I hid my dreads, I had them all wrapped in my head, wore a hat, took my glasses off, and I literally had 4 police officers stop me with photographs from Facebook trying to figure out who these people were. And I didn't see a picture of me, but they had all these pictures from facial recollections, and I remember sitting there not even looking because I couldn't see all the papers. And this person was with a dog, and I was just like, hello puppy, you know, like going, go away to these police. And they obviously didn't see me, and it's just my mum was doing this, I managed to get away. But definitely always expect the unexpected, and if you're new and you're wanting to definitely organise stuff, I definitely recommend getting advice and doing your homework, because when I started, I just went full belt and I just didn't think about anything, and my thought was animals, and consequences just went out the window for me. I was just like, I don't care about the consequences, I just want to help. And so yeah, definitely get advice, seek some help, just don't go full force. And especially when someone's young and they go full force and they first get into activism and they really want to do this, their passion is so on 110%, it's great, but you'll learn a lot by asking people who've been in the movement for a long time, that's for sure.
We've got to wrap up. We've really got to wrap up. There's a little talk about what contribute if you've got a brief contribution.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say, for me personally, if I'm on an action or whatever it might be, and there's people that don't take leadership from the organisers, I won't work with them. I won't, because you need to know your team is with you 100%. I've also been on investigations where the organisers aren't communicating well with me, and it really pisses me off. Because you're out somewhere, you don't know where you are, you just arrived at this, chicken shed or wherever you might be, and they're off whispering about which way they're going to go and what they're going to do, and you're just standing back going, why aren't you telling me I'm here too? It's really rude. If you're out with a team, you communicate with your team. It doesn't matter if it's 3 people or 100 people. Everyone needs to know what's going on, and everyone needs to feel safe as much as you possibly can. Obviously, things get thrown at you. Sometimes you can't prepare for everything, but just remember, the communicator is key, and everyone needs to be looked after as much as you possibly can. And if people go off and want to break, change things and do their own thing without communicating, don't work with them. It's too risky, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
I kind of feel we should allocate a little bit more time for this discussion. Maybe next year we'll have more time. We're overrunning. I want to apologise to the next speaker. My severe apologies. Thank you to Izzy, Mippy and Kristen for your time and your work.
Thank you.